Okay, good afternoon to you all, and welcome to our session this afternoon. We are going to be looking at API, who decides? We're looking at the business analyst or the developer. And
yeah, just one question before you go ahead. Is this session recorded?
Yes, it is.
Good. Thank you. Yeah.
So we have no other person, our very own Nnenna. She's a senior business analyst, product manager, product owner, everything. She has educational experience in computing. She has over 9 years experience working within the IT project and agile software product delivery environment. She's built and managed communities of practice, delivery teams and agile teams, and implemented strategies that have provided financial and reputational benefits to businesses, meanwhile applying industry best practices. So I'll hand over at this time to Nnenna to continue the session. Nnenna, you are very much welcome.
Thank you so much, Carlos. I appreciate that. Looks like hearing those things again is like, I've done a lot. I think I need to change my career and become a housewife now, just to rest. Or not rest, actually, because it's quite stressful raising kids, so I might need to go back into career after probably one day. But yeah, no, I'm really happy that Wally and William were able to set this up, because I haven't had a session in a long time, just been crazy busy. So yes, welcome guys. And I can see the numbers as well. I really appreciate that. Makes me feel good. It means I won't be talking to just myself for a bit, so that's good news. I was quite worried when I saw only 4 people. I was like, okay. So yeah. Anyway, when we wanted to pick this topic about APIs, I had a different point of view to what Wally picked. But when Wally decided with this question, who decides on the API, I thought that was one of the best things ever, because the way to answer the question will allow BAs learn where they fit in when it comes to APIs, because a lot of BAs panic about it, and I understand why they do, because obviously you would panic about something you think is technical or something that seems strange to you. So that's why I was very happy about the question he asked. So I'm happy to start if you guys are. Just so you know, it's going to be very interactive. I'm going to make it in such a way. I'm going to try my best to keep it to 30, 40 minutes-ish. But I hope I'll really encourage you to ask loads of questions. And I'm going to make it as interactive as possible, because we'll kind of do a vote very soon during the course of this presentation or session. All right. I guess I can start now. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, then. So who decides the use of an API or the need for an API in the first place? Unfortunately, I'm not really going to go in depth into APIs, because I've done that already, probably 4 times already, even 5 times. So I put a few links here, which I popped into the chat section, or the comment bar. And if you want to read more about APIs, because these links will lead you to very basic material that'll make you understand APIs in depth. I'm trying to keep things pretty, high level today. So I really wouldn't go in depth into all of them. So these are the material, these are the links there. What does an API stand for? Let me put this here. Okay. Most of you obviously would easily Google and find the answer. It simply means application programming interface. No one ever calls it that. Everyone just calls it APIs, because everyone's lazy, so we'll just call it by the short name. So that's basically what it stands for. If you notice with the actual meaning of the acronym, application programming interface, it kind of sounds technical, doesn't it? So then let's see what else it means. So like I mentioned, loads of BAs think API is a technical subject. It could be, it could not be. We'll find out as we keep going. Oh, actually, I put the answer. Sorry, it is. However, the concept of APIs is actually not. It's just a way of, say, computers or interfaces having conversations with each other and without needing a human being to get themselves involved in it. So what I mean by that is, if you notice, the API stands for application. This thing you're looking at now, Zoom itself, I'm sure you're familiar because some of you are probably tech BAs, and put that in quotes. An interface is what the user sees. So an API is what connects one interface to another interface. It just makes it to interfaces talk to each other easily, faster, better, something like that. And rather than having a human have to maybe copy information here and paste it in another interface, it just talks to each other. So the information you paste in one interface just goes into the other one, kinda. That's kind of like the concept of it. So that's basically what it means. Now, just a question to the, I hope 3 people are able to answer. Which one of these 2 do you think is an API? What would you say, based on what you know so far, which one of these 2 do you think is an API?
They both are APIs.
That's what you're saying, Zafar. Okay, let's hear from someone else.
The USB cable.
The USB, yeah.
So TT and Grace is saying USB. Is there any other person thinks differently? Oh, no one else. All right, that's fine. Good. So TT and Grace, thank you. But Zafar was correct. Both of them are, because literally, obviously the cable, it's pretty obvious because it's going to connect 2 things. But do you know that your socket stops you from going out to, let's say, the power grid and connecting your computer to the power grid directly? Okay, are you seeing that part of it? Because the socket is in the house, you now no longer need to drag your laptop to where the power grid is to plug your laptop in. It literally just pulls the electricity from the power grid to your house. So it's allowing you access to the power, but at the comfort of your house. So both of them are APIs. Is anyone confused about that? Or is that easy to understand?
Yes, it's easy. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just always have in mind that anything that allows you to connect to another thing, it mustn't actually look like this. It could actually look like this. So yeah, that's the answer, both. So in layman terms, I'm just basically trying to describe an API as anything that allows you to connect to something else that you don't directly need to. Now, in one of our articles, I gave an example using a hotel, the phone numbers in a hotel. If you notice, we'll talk about that probably about here. Okay, so again, our topic for today is who decides. Is it the dev that decides, or is it the BA that decides? I would actually, no, I don't think I'll say the answer. So we'll leave it here first, and let me think. What do you guys think? Who do you think this decides on?
The GCP dev?
So you're saying the dev. So what we'll do is, I would like all of you to pop your answers in the comment section. Just pop your answers in. So between the API and between the dev or the BA, we're trying to decide between these 2 people. Or we're just trying to decide.
Or should we discuss it?
Well, depending on, because I want to just I want to be able to pick people when I see the chat to then tell us the answers. So Carlos, Amadi, dev. I think someone might have sent a memo round. Rafa's both. Okay, Patrick's both. Are you guys trying to use the trick I used where I said was that's why you're saying both. Dev for most cases, but could be depending on the use. Okay, in the use case, hopefully. But we should collaborate. I like that. But that's not the answer. That's not the answer. But I like it.
Are we talking about the person that makes the final decision? The person that makes the call?
No, the need for an API.
Mrs. Abiodun.
Who decides the need for an API, right?
Yeah.
Mrs. Abiodun calling.
Mayowa, we can hear your conversation.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I wish I could speak Yoruba. All right, so everyone's saying...
Nnenna, this is Zafar, right? I think it's a very vague question as well, though, to be honest.
Yeah.
Who decide the API? What does that mean?
Exactly.
Can you... Yeah, thank you.
So let's start from the very beginning. Now, the topic I initially wanted to discuss was something concerning more about why BAs shouldn't really worry much about APIs, right? But when Wale picked this topic, it then gave me a different outlook to how to teach it from the two people's point of view. So I really like the question. So don't worry too much about the details of what the questions mean or not. Just see it as who actually decides the need for an API. Oh, Barbara, your hands are up.
Yeah, Nnenna, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to clarify that I didn't say both. I think it's both. It's the dev, but also in collaboration with the business.
Oh, okay, that's good. That's good.
Purely because if the dev decides a particular API and it doesn't conform with the legacy systems, it doesn't work synchronize with the legacy systems of the business, the dev will equally fail. So the two will discuss what tools, what security parameters, whatever would work together with the proposed API. The business and the dev will work together. But that's just my opinion. That's my experience. Thank you.
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, from what Barbara said, yeah, what I think is this is not really. I don't see this question as who decides, BA or developer decides whatever, if we're gonna need API for that or not, because I think it should be the business, which when I talk about the business from the product side would be a BA representing the business in software development life cycle. If the BA can always come up with, oh, we want this, we want that, but at the end of the day, it depends on the technical team to see if that is even possible in the first place. We've moved on using SMTP to API these days, right? We could have a service which we look at and we decide, okay, maybe SMTP will work a lot better in this particular service, not API. The dev, they have to obviously give you their own opinion. They have to give you the technical details, and it's left for you to decide or to make the call if you really want to use that or not. But at the end of the day, I don't think any devs make any call or they make any decision in terms of what the business want. They can only advise what is possible and what is not.
Okay, so I'm just gonna, okay, you say you don't think the dev may have a call as to what the business wants. Dev may not, because I want to talk about that.
It's not, their opinion is valid. They can give technical opinion, but they don't make that call. It's the business. The product decides, the product team decides at the end of the day what the business wants.
All right, thank you so much. Is there any other person who wants to jump on this?
Just a quick question to Richie. So Richie, what if it's an integration piece whereby you're using a specialist third party to do that? Would you not think that third party and the business needs to sit down and discuss what tools and resources they're going to use to integrate that system?
I'm going to
that is why we have what is called static review. Right, okay, but let's go on. I don't want to take Nnenna's. I don't want to like.
I'm actually going to get to that because talking about vendors a bit is there. So just a bit of context, because clearly we have a lot of technical people, but then conscious of the fact that we don't have technical people. Richie used the word service. An API is also called a service. So if you have an API that checks, say, that looks up phone numbers, it will be a phone number service. So you can use the word service as well to replace API. Again, it's all in my material, the links in the comment bar. You can just go and look it up and read from there. And then I like the answers I got, but there was something else I wanted to mention just to give a bit of context into APIs. Now, are you guys familiar with the fact that obviously, I'm sure a few of us use Twitter. You notice that after a bit, Twitter refreshes on its own. You didn't make, ignoring the fact, if you don't touch your phone and you're just reading tweets and you're probably scrolling downwards, you'd notice that Twitter on its own will refresh on its own. That's an API working on its own. Now, this is why I gave the example about it's an interface talking to another interface. It's just computers talking to themselves. Your Twitter feed probably has a timer somewhere that says, right, it's time for you to refresh. Every 10 seconds, show the next tweets if they're like up to 100, something like that. So the Twitter interface would just check your tweets and then load it and then tell you, oh, you didn't see the pop-up there saying there are new updates or new tweets above, something like that. That actually is an API. So it's just, I don't want people to get a bit confused or scared when you hear the loads of technical terms flying around. Just don't worry, it's as easy as that. And same way your phone automatically finds the news and lets you know that, oh, this is today's weather, this is the news. You didn't go manually into your phone to look for it. It did it by itself. That's an API.
There are other services we can use to do that, which is not API. We can use Identity Server to do that. All we're doing is refreshing a token. So what happens is, what it does is a logic you can apply in the system where you tell the system refresh the token. So whenever it refreshes it, it refreshes the screen. So you say refresh every 5 seconds, or you can put refresh every 10 seconds, or whenever a user scrolls down, refresh.
Yeah, so then, okay, all right, thank you for that. Anyway, so we've all talked about so you guys have talked about who you think would determine the need for an API. Some of you, I mean, we didn't necessarily vote, but I could hear almost everyone leaning more towards the tech people, some business, some both. That's good. And then a few people jumped in to explain why they think so. But I want us to actually figure this out ourselves. So I want us to have a look at Rightmove to figure out. Now, for context reasons, say I've been looking to buy a house in Manchester, right? So what I do is whenever I drive past areas, I just look around to be like, was this a nice environment? Is it not a nice environment? Things like that. Like I'm looking for really good locations for myself. And one day I actually just drive down this street. The name is Hall-Lane. And I just fell in love with that street, like that, Hall-Lane. Now, the reason I knew it was Hall-Lane is because I could see the sticker, the thingy, the pole, signposting that street is called Hall-Lane. But for some weird reason, I didn't know where I was, because, I mean, you don't always know where you are. There are many times you could even be in the boundaries of two different places, so you wouldn't know where you are actually, but you know the street you're in. So, and anyway, I made up my mind I actually want to live on this Hall-Lane, so I need to find a house in Hall-Lane, okay? Now, let's look for that house together on Rightmove. As you can see, Rightmove is telling me to put the name of the place, maybe put stuff like Waterloo Station, or put a postcode in. I don't know the postcode for Hall-Lane unless I have to look for the postcode for Hall-Lane, and I don't know where Hall-Lane is. And there's no station close to it. I didn't see a train station around it. But you know what? Let's try Hall-Lane. So I type Hall-Lane here. Good. And I want to find one for sale. Can you see it's giving me an error message here? Which means it doesn't know where Hall-Lane is. But so technically, Rightmove is telling me that I have to put the word Manchester to find a house, which means I have to look through a list of 3,000 properties to find the one property I want. Are we together with, do we understand the gravity of this?
Yeah, we're listening.
Exactly. So like, wow. So Rightmove actually expects me to go through 3,600 houses to find the one house to know if there's even a property on Hall-Lane, because there might not even be a property on Hall-Lane. And that was just all I wanted to check. Okay. Now let me ask the question again. Richie, please, you will not answer, please. I'm just going to mute you for a bit. I want to.
I like that.
Richie, please just hold on for a bit. Now, let me ask the question again. Who determines the need for an API? I'm not going to give you options. Who determines the need for an API now?
I think it's the business.
The business.
Is it the business?
Everyone.
The product, because it depends on the nature of. I think it's.
You confused everybody, Nina.
Probably depend on the company, because my company is the devs.
Someone mentioned a company, so we'll come back to that when we're talking about vendors. I'll just leave. So people saying business and company, you're not wrong, But we'll get back to that again. We'll get to that part because I've got vendors in.
Sorry, Nnenna, can I just quickly chip in something? I believe the BAs and the business, because remember, one of the roles of a BA is to suggest and talk about how to increase and improve, like give value. So the BAs will kind of talk to the business and they would collaborate together to see the positives. So that's just my opinion. Thank you.
I like that answer because we're getting, okay, Richie, do you want to say something?
I said whoever's talked now, good, very good.
Yeah. So, Titi, I like that answer because we're getting close to something. I like that you mentioned value. Can you talk to us about who determines value?
It's when a BA understands the vision of Rightmove, for example, and they know that they want things to be easier for all their clients. So they would they would show them and see, can you see that people are looking through 3,000? Now, how can we make this better to sieve things down? And that's when they say we need to develop something like a filter to help whoever is looking through Rightmove to make life easier. So that's what I can say.
Wonderful. Really good.
I love that.
Really good. Really good.
Great, guys. Thank you. That's made my day. Thank you.
I love you already.
Titi, you nailed it. You nailed it.
Right, so that's really good. But then there is something. Does someone want to say something?
Yeah, it's Thomason, yeah.
And Titi, I thought you were a new BA, yeah?
Can you hear me? It's Thomason.
Sorry, please, let's let Thomason talk. You were saying?
Yeah. So for me, I think it's going to be the solution architect because it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be when the business is already going. Maybe if it's a new project or a new startup, and there's the need, for people to be able to that the business are trying to integrate with other services or other services, yeah, and and then the solution, the architect will look at this, say, oh, this is the problem and this is the solution I'm proposing, and part of it might be okay. An API might be able to do this or something else, just like Richie mentioned, Then you narrow it down to say, okay, maybe the best way to do it is using an API. Maybe it's more cost effective, is a newer technology and stuff like that. So for me,
sorry, what's your name? What's your name? Who spoke now?
Thomason.
Tommy, okay.
Thomason.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, what about if it's a growing business that can't afford a solution architect or can't afford
Wait, before we go into that, just to pause actually, just because there's something I was going to say to eradicate or remove that. The answer is not wrong, but the answer is the same with what everyone's saying, because a solution architect is actually a business analyst, but just more technical.
Exactly.
So it's still the same thing. You're just more technical, like you're more codey. So that's just the only difference. So technically, it's still the answer of everyone's saying is the BA that might determine it. Now, I just want to go back a bit to Titi's answer. So she didn't give me the exact answer I was looking for, but she's kind of beat around the bush because she said the BA focuses on creating value. Now, one of my articles, I wrote that value creation is, okay, I don't want to give the answer. Value creation is focused on, there's a particular person you focus on when you're trying to create value, right? We won't talk about that, we'll just pause there. But Titi is the one that got the closest to the answer. So let's just go back. The person actually decides the need for an API. It's not necessarily the dev, neither is it the BA. It could be both, but we'll get to what we're talking about, the initial trigger in the first place, which is why I took you guys to Rightmove. Now, just to ask an open question, when I was using Rightmove, who am I to use Rightmove?
You are a user. You're just a user.
Beautiful, which means that actually what determines the use of an API is user experience. Which is why when Titi said value, I was like, that's correct, because you can't create value if you don't have a user to impress. The user is one that determines value. Actually, what creates APIs is just user experience. When people just want to be like, when the BA says, oh, I think our users are suffering because they have to do too many things, can't we make this faster? Then the tech team will now be like, oh, right, that's true. Why don't we search for an API? We'll look for this person. Oh, I think there's a vendor we can plug into. That brings us to vendors. And then there was someone that mentioned this part about what if the people that mention the business itself saying that they want to use an API. The reason the business wants to use an API is either they want to connect to something somewhere to provide a service, which is still based on the user, or they're trying to, or maybe they actually are the ones that are making the API. So imagine if, because one of the examples I gave in my article is, imagine if you as a person sat down one day and then you counted all the red cars in the whole of UK, and then you counted them based on location. Right? Say Manchester, there are 3 red cars, London, there are 2 red cars, blah, blah, blah. You then create a database of this. If someone ever needs to know how many red cars are in a particular location, maybe Mercedes wants to know how many red cars are in like a particular, in any location in the UK, they just want to be able to request information about red cars and be given a response on the number of red cars in that their request. They would then come and meet you and be like, can I plug into your database to know how many red cars are in different locations? Since you have a database full of that, which means you as a person built a database, so you're now a vendor. Okay.
Correct that impression, please.
Sorry?
Correct that impression. Nobody does that now. Because API can talk to a different API. Nobody will connect you to their data. They just know it now.
Yeah, no, but I say you own the data that you're looking for.
Okay,
so
that's
you can
fine.
create an API that plugs into yours, and they would then plug the API into theirs. So Mercedes will come and ask you for your API, not your database, obviously. But you own the database is what I'm trying to say. You made a database containing all of that data, and then you then expose your API here. So this is your database. I hope you guys can see me. I don't know if you can see me. This is your database here. You made that database. You plug in an API, which means anybody. So now you're a vendor. Anyone can come and plug into this side to find out what's going on here. So all they have to do is send requests, and then you send a response back to them. Push pull. Are we good?
I like that, Nina.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I think, Nnenna, I just wanted to add something. This is Thomason here.
Yes.
I think over the years, I've always thought the best example of how a business, uses API is a business like Experian, where all the banks that can then plug into their API.
Yeah.
So that's
Experian is a vendor now because they own that data. People want it. The banks are desperate for it because they like Experian. I don't know. They works really hard for it. Do you get? So what they do is they expose their API. So they created that. They expose one end. It's called an endpoint. They expose that endpoint, and then banks can connect to it. Now, with this analogy, I hope you guys are seeing where BA is kind of coming. Don't worry, we'll go further into it. But there's also something else I want to talk about. Now, even though user experience is the most that determines why you should need an API, or what even though user experience or the user is actually why you should probably use an API, devs also create APIs for themselves when they're working. So now that's what I wanted to talk about when I initially was given this platform. The first thing that came to my mind is to tell BAs to just relax, because devs would build APIs because they need it. They always need it. Now, what I mean by that is, I could be a dev and I'm working on something, and I wouldn't want to maybe have to write a static code that would do one thing or do some other thing. So what I would do is just probably build an API that I can keep reusing, because that's a good thing about APIs. You can keep reusing it. So rather than me having to write the code 10 times, I can just build one API. And then every time I need to receive that response on this end, I plug into that API. So this doesn't concern BAs, because it's just the dev trying to be tidy or make their lives easy. Someone trying to ask a question. Yeah, it's just the devs trying to be tidy. This kind of API really, I don't even see the need to, I mean, they will document it, but you don't even need to tell the business about it. The business don't need to know about that. It's just their housekeeping, their problem, their business, okay? So that was the first thing that came to my mind to talk to you guys about, to stop panicking over it. The devs will sort it out. It is their problem, not yours, okay? However, like I said, when Wale created the question, I then realized actually talking about it from a user experience point of view then allows us see where the BA comes in and see where the devs come in. So now, so let's talk about the devs first, and then we'll jump, because the next page is about the BAs. But I'm just gonna pause here and see if there are any questions. Okay. So let's talk about the devs now. The devs themselves would, obviously they're the ones that create the API. They write the code that creates the API, all up to them. If they need an API, so say there's say there's this head dev or tech lead or dev lead or whatever, and he's made loads of libraries of his APIs. They could then connect to his own because they then have to find his own and just use it. Or they might even want to use an external one. Up to them. They will tell you, and they will find the external one they want. Okay, so they will tell you. By you, I'm referring to the BA. So they will tell the BA they need an external one, which is kind of like shows how the BA comes in, or they'll find it themselves. They actually most times find it themselves.
Would the dev would do it, or would it technical lead or solution architect would do that to find a API, whether it's external or internal?
Okay, so if it's internal, the devs themselves will find it. They know where to find it.
Right.
If it's external, they probably would just inform you by day. It could even be the dev, it could be a tech lead, it could be a solution architect, whatever. They will just inform you that they found. They don't need your permission because they need it. Do you get?
They need, Nnenna, because at the end of the day, with the situation we have is where these are we call them dependencies, right? So if we have these dependencies, it's left for the business. Well, I don't want my devs going to talk to external or third party. No, I don't want them to do that. So I want the BAs, the product team, you guys, to go and get the dependencies and what we need, because sometimes we need the API key to hook up on the other API, so it's something you guys need to go sort out in any organization where things work fine.
So yeah, it depends from organization to organization. There was something else. So now I wanted to use an example of Google APIs. A Google API now, I don't really think a dev will need to tell a BA to go and discuss with Google.
Because it's open source.
Exactly. So that's why I said the devs will find it themselves and just inform you. The only time the devs will bring the BA in and let the business know and make it very, let's say, very following the book kind of process is if it's a vendor they can interact with, a vendor they want to negotiate with. If it's a vendor they even want, maybe they've got loads of vendors and they now need the BA to do a vendor assessment to know which one's the best for what they want. That's not where the BA comes in. But when it's like the government's APIs or whatever, like they just hook up to it. They don't need to inform you. They don't need permission. They'll just inform you about it, depending on how immersive you want to be as a BA. But then most times they have hierarchy in the dev team. So those ones make the decision. It's not for you to do. Don't worry about that. Okay. So that's just what I was trying to say. They find on their own. They will document the APIs themselves because they need to document it. Remember I said APIs are reusable. Your socket is reusable. You don't use it once and throw it away. They would always keep it for the next time. So they would document it themselves. What you could probably do is ensure it's documented in a place that all of them can see it. Again, they have tech leads to manage stuff like that. It's not your job to manage tech people. So
Nnenna, my question is, who does the schema?
It's still them. It's got nothing to do with you.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you Nnenna saying this? Because I remember you doing a schema for me.
So because I'm doing, remember I have a tech background, so I can do it. Doesn't mean BA should do it. I can, doesn't mean you should.
Yeah, but Richie, she does cleaning as well. Doesn't mean that she's a cleaner,
Exactly. Yeah, I wouldn't expect a BA to do it, honestly. I would say leave them to sort that out. All you can do is just be interested in what you're doing, right? They obviously test it themselves as well. Unless a QA is available, then a QA will test it. Some businesses don't have QA, so obviously the devs will test it as well. So that's them. I'm just going to pause now and look at comments before we jump into the BA part.
My question is that, Nnenna, if you can expand a little bit on external and internal APIs, what's the difference? And also from access point of view and security point of view, what is the difference? So if you can just expand a bit on it.
When I woke up this morning, I wanted to talk about security, but I totally forgot to include in my notes. So, but thanks for bringing that up. But then let's talk about internal first. So internal APIs are the ones that the devs use. So if I were a dev writing a code and I just want to create an API that will just make things easy for me on my own, no one's telling me to, I'll create an API. I can then decide, you know what, this is good actually. Any other dev in this office might want to use it. That API will not necessarily have as much security because it's an in-house thing. No one else would ever see it. We're not exposing it for other people to use, so the security will less. It's just us, we be doing it. So that's that. That's an internal API, right? Now, by internal, I mean inside the house, writing it into your code kind of API. But there's some other internal where you now need it's used in the office to link one thing to another thing, right? that one will certainly have security, because you can't just let, because it's an office thing doesn't mean you just let anyone, you know, the sense of security. So that will have to, but it's still internal, meaning it doesn't have to always be clean. It's internal. For external, obviously higher security needs. You then have it's like maybe when you're, but then there's no API that doesn't come with its own security protocol or something. Because remember, there's a database at the other end, or there's a server at the other end. Nobody would ever let you have access to the database. No one would do that. So APIs are naturally secure for starters. I think they just write it that way, or maybe it's the code that makes it secure.
You'll be surprised.
But could there be also instances that even though it is an internal API, but you still need some kind of token or some kind of access? There could be boundaries there as well for internal APIs.
So that, okay, before Richie would jump on this, because this is kind of like his field. And before we get to the, when you want to use an API, you have to make a request. Part of that request comes with the security. For starters, no one knows even the type of request to make unless they actually read the API to know that type. You can't read the API if you don't have the document that tells you what the request should be. And then obviously when you're making the request, we also tell you the security, whatever you need to put into the request as well. Now, when you make the request then goes to the server. The server then reads the part of, is the security correct? Yes. Now let me read what was put into the API to see if it's even correct. Sometimes that could also be added security as well, because if what you're trying to use to make a call is meant to be date of birth, and then you put in someone's name, it will just fail. Do you get? So that could also be used as added security.
Right,
now,
thank you.
Yeah, so that's that.
Good.
Richard, do you want to jump in quickly for 5 minutes?
No, I was just, no, I think I was just trying to tell him that these days, even with internal API, you can build your auth, your authentication process. There are different kind of auth. You can decide to do it no auth because it's internal. You don't care. I mean, the data you have there might be test data. I mean, what someone's going to do with test data? But it's easy to build these authentication systems these days where you have what is called a private key and the public key. You decide which one you give out to whoever wants to use it. So at the end of the day, there are all different kind of authentication you can build around your API.
Yeah. Again, don't stress over the terminologies. It's not for BAs. Just calm down about it. Don't stress. They will sort everything out. That's why they document the API. That's all. So we'll leave it there. Now the next.
Patrick's hand is up.
Oh, Richie.
Richie is always talking. Oh, Patrick's hand is up, I think.
Patrick, yeah.
A question from me. So you guys were mentioning building schemas and building APIs, and I know you've already established that APIs are not for BAs to be concerned about, but number one, is there value in knowing how to actually build APIs? Like, do developers appreciate that? And number two, how difficult is it to learn how to actually do that? Or is it really, we shouldn't really care about it? Because I'm looking for the difficult stuff. How do I add more value?
Oh, that's really nice, Patrick. You're a very kind person. So let me ask you a question.
Well, don't say that, Nnenna. There's nothing kind there. Sometimes it's good. Don't forget you're a BA. It doesn't mean you can't be a system analyst, or you don't know. You can know a bit more about system analysis. Nnenna might tell you, don't worry about it. She has technical background, okay? So the more technical background you have, the better you become at your job as
in the market.
Exactly. I don't agree with that. I'll get to that.
Selfish question.
So I'm just going to ask you, Patrick, because you're going to answer your question yourself. So you're asking, would the devs appreciate you having more knowledge about APIs? Now, can I ask you, you're a business analyst, right? You know your secret of how to write user stories. You know your secret of how to write maybe jerkins, or maybe no acceptance criteria. You know how to do your maps and everything. Maybe you're the best when it comes to BPMN and stuff in your office. Would you appreciate it if the developers know how to write BPMN themselves?
No, I'd rather they leave that to me.
Good. That is the answer.
Like that.
As a professional, you should work with trust with your team members. You do your job. Work collaboratively with them. So as much as Richie is saying that, that's why I've been used as a donkey. My mind's everywhere, but I need people to grow in their profession. You should learn that. Right now, I've been saying no to lots of things. You should grow in your profession in the sense. So if you're a BA, focus on being a BA and be the best BA that ever exists. Don't be everything. Okay, so
would you agree, Nnenna, that it's also better to have some working knowledge? You'll be able to communicate better with the business and with the devs.
That is true, which is why we're talking about APIs from a BS point of view, because I need you to know where you come in. But you don't need to actually know, let's say, because I put a HTTP code somewhere, you don't need to know those technical things. You don't need to know the hard stuff. Trust them. Work with them. People like when they're trusted to work. So why don't you just, if you
They shouldn't know the standard HTTP code. Standard.
I put it there for anyone.
So how are they gonna write the API document? Like how are they gonna instruct?
I'm the BA.
Because I want BAs to do this, you know.
I don't expect a BA to do that.
I want developers to do technical spikes, but the BAs to at least say, look at what they want. To at least say, look at what they want, at least.
Okay, when I get to HTTP codes.
Richie, let Nnenna go through what she wants to go through as well, please. We will appreciate that, I think.
All right, so back on board. So what does the BA do? I'm sure everyone's familiar with the fact that business analysis is tied into user experience. We expect our BAs to be familiar with user needs. That's why you hear stuff like user-centered design, blah, 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 and everything. All of that is tied to business analysis. Yes, we have user researchers. We have UX designers, but you're meant to work in collaboration with them. You don't just, because, I mean, these people came to make your job easier. Yes, trust them, but you also, because you need to hear what they're saying. As a BA, you're trying to be in between the business and the tech team. The business wants to make their customers happy as well, right? Because that's how they create value, which means whatever the customer is saying is what you listen to. That's why you need to understand and identify the user experience need. That's the first one. Then when it comes to maybe liaising with vendors or finding the vendors you need to provide the system or the API that you want, then now you obviously have to be in there listening to, or even doing the vendor assessment. The way I tell people to do the vendor assessment is this. If you're a company that's built an API, you are the one that has the API exposed, you own the API, you would have your specification already. So if I'm a BA in another company that wants to use you, the one that owns the server. So let me just make this clearer. We have company A, let's use Experian. We have Experian here, we have banks here, right? Experian owns the data, banks need that data. Now, what I see a lot of my BAs doing is they are the bank, right? And then they start running crazy. No, I need an API document. How do I do the API? Why? Experian has the documentation. Just tell them to send it to you. It's that simple. You don't need to do anything. It's literally that simple. So this is probably the knowledge BAs need when it comes to API, knowing that they own the documentation, they are the vendors. So you just have to cross your legs and say, I want to say, dance for me. Just tell me what you're made of. All those things. You're the boss here, so don't stress about anything. Just again, you just tell them to send the documentation to you. When they send it to you, you hand it over to the devs and just be the middleman there. You don't need to read it. You can read it if you're curious. If you want to get more into tech things, that's fine. Like Patrick's curious about that. If you want to change your career, that's fine. You can do that, or you give it to the tech team to handle. So if you're liaising with vendors, you're just being in between. If there are loads of vendors, you could do something called vendor assessment. You do know that's about business analysis. That's you get loads of vendors and you go through all your documentation. Again, if the documentation is too technical, tell them to send you a user-friendly one, the user manual. The one you can read and understand, they'll send it to you, okay? But the technical one is actually the tech team. The easy to read one is for you. So you can use that to do your vendor assessment as well, to pick the best person to look up to. That's it. So that's liaising with vendors. Then we have the being able to identify the triggers and the response. Now, this is in a way where Rich is coming in, but not to the point of HTTP codes. That's too far. You can document it. You can. But the thing is, it doesn't change. It's always the same. So I don't know why you're stressing over it. That's why I put it down there. It never changes. It's literally there. So you don't even need to document it anymore. We'll get to the code story. So now, I skipped these two because I want to talk about it in a bit. And then you ensuring the API document is documented and easy to reach, and you can keep it for new people to come and read it and everything. Obviously, making sure communication is good is your job. So I would say just putting an eye out, not controlling, but putting an eye out. Now let's talk about these two: identifying the trigger and identifying the response. Trigger, you can use another word called call. You can use, what's the phrase? Something, request. Thank you.
Post or get or post or something.
Yeah, no, it's the request. So post, get, all of them are part of the, that's what comes with the API, but don't worry about that. Oh, that's a request. So now, yeah, the trigger is also the request. But let's go back to Rightmove and see where you come in. Now, identifying the trigger, if you've got designers, if you've got content designers, if you've got user experience designers, even with your stakeholders, all of you can determine the trigger or the response together. So if that means if you're trying to make, so say you work in Experian now, you guys want to create your own API and expose it to someone, you can determine the trigger, what you trigger that API, and the response you will send out. Okay, so say you wanted to do that, or say you own a website and you want to improve the user experience. Now, using that example, let's go back to Rightmove. Okay, just because I know a few people just jumped on. We're talking about Rightmove. As you can see, Rightmove is saying that I should put in the name of a place for its postcode. Or what if I don't know the postcode or the name of the place? I actually just want to find Hall Lane, or I want to find Elmira Way, or I want to find Corner Street. Then you get it? What if I want to do that? Now, if I put Corner Street in here, she will tell me no much is found. So maybe Corner Way. Well, clearly it's not finding streets. It's only going to find postcodes and locations. But we want to improve the user experience in such a way that someone like Nnenna, when she drives past the street, when she sees the name of the street and wants to leave on that street, she can find that street without going through 3,600 properties to figure out if there's a property for sale on that street. Okay. Now, to improve that user experience, I then would, so now we're trying to write this from a point of view of a BA. This is where BA is coming with APIs. Whatever is entered into here is called a request. Whatever data that goes in here is a request. So it means the API knows that whatever is entered is a text that might be a postcode or might be the name of a location. And then it goes to the server to go and find what matches that. And then it returns something called a response, okay? Which is why if we have, you click that button, it returns this because it didn't find anything. But this was still a successful search. So when Richie talked about HTTP codes and error codes and stuff, this is still 200 because the call was successful. Whether I returned something good or bad is not the point. The call was successful, right? Now, other HTTP codes can occur if maybe say the server couldn't be reached, or maybe your servers and your network connection is bad. So many other things. You then have other HTTP codes like 400, 500, I think there's 300 as well. I think there's even 100 when I downloaded the document. I was like, what? Anyway, so you can have the other ones. But 200 means it made a successful call. Again, it doesn't matter if you returned anything or not, it was successful. But let's just go back a bit. So if you're a 4CBA and you want to go too far, you can write, provided it's 200, like, I don't know why you need to specify that because devs already know what 200 is, but if you want to do that, up to you. It means it was a successful call. But anyway, now as a BA, if I want to write, create or specify this API, what I'll start with is the fact that I should be able to enter any text here, and then it should go and search the server and return with the information that I need, which means if I enter Elmira Way here, it should bring me properties on Elmira Way. That's what I'm going to write. Well, just something funny there. That's still the specification of this current user interface. So if you're writing a user story and acceptance criteria of this interface, it's still the same thing, but let's go back. Right. Just ignore that. Now, like I mentioned, if you want to now specify it as a BA, because this is now where you come in, you'll be able to write your user story. Yes, as a visitor or logged in user, I want to be able to type in the name of the street so that I can find homes that are for sale on that street. That's your user story. It's then let the devs know exactly what why the user wants a change. Then your acceptance criteria, obviously create a text box, blah, 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 display the waterline. But then now see, you're putting a different thing now. You're allowing them search based on street name instead of just postcode and location. So that's the only difference. Provide a search button to allow them query whatever text has been entered. And then if the text matches a property on a street or postcode or location, display a new screen, a new page with whatever properties were matched, match properties were found. If not, display an error message. It's that simple. This user story, if you remove this specification, if you remove this word street name, is exactly what we have here. But because you're killing the dead, you want that street name to be there. You actually want them to find based on street names. They will then go and change the API at the back. Can you see why you said you have no control of the API? It's them. So you just came and said, we want to be able to do street names now. They just changed that. The only thing the content designer would then do is just write street name here in waterline. It's the same story, the same acceptance criteria. You didn't do much, but it's just the API that changed. Now the API, because before now the API couldn't find street names. Now because they hooked up to maybe Google APIs, which is more powerful, they now can find houses based on street names. How are they going to fix the database to do all that magic? Up to them. You don't need to concern yourself with that. So I hope.
Very good explanation, Nnenna. Thank you.
I'm just going to, because I'm very conscious of time and I really need to run. These are the HTTP codes. Literally just Google it. I put the link in there in this document. Just Google HTTP codes if you want to read about it. You see 200, okay. Yeah. But I don't see the reason because they know what they're doing anyway. They write the codes, or I'm sure it comes automatically. I'm not sure. Does it come automatically?
No, the design, one of our designer, he had a wrong codes all over the place. Yesterday, we had a long discussion about it. So, people still, sometimes they don't know either.
Yeah. All right. So, well, they don't know. They don't know HTTP codes, a dev.
Sometimes they don't, they get it wrong, like what should be, for example, take an example from here. What is that? 402? What is that code? What does it say?
Unauthorized. Yeah. So, well, that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. Sometime, to be honest, there was a long discussion yesterday in our meeting that they had wrong codes in their low design document. So people can make mistake on there.
There's a lot of codes here. All you need to know is they are quite basic ones, like 200. You don't even need to know any other 300 codes. You need to know 400, 404, 409, which is conflict, and 500, which is internal server error. You don't even need to know the rest,
So the thing is, if you're going to know something else, but I mean, from a just Google it, you see all of them if you want to learn. So that's that. Questions. Oh, I have somewhere to run to.
Emmanuel's hand is up.
Okay.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I joined quite late. And I know you guys have gone far, but I'll just go straight with my question.
Okay.
I saw, I'm new into this, and I saw that from the document you showed us now, trying to describe, I saw your acceptance criteria. It didn't follow like the convention that I know the given when then.
Yeah, you talk about jerkins. There are two types of acceptance criteria: rule-based or jerkins, or behavioral-driven. That's jerkins. I didn't use that. Actually, to be fair, that would have been better seen as it's based on behavior. But I wanted to use the rule-based. That's why I used that one. I didn't have time for jerkins.
Yeah. I think there's no, Emmanuel, there's no set rule for it. It depends which organization you work in. How the developer sees it. So who was the previous BA from you? How did they do it? So you can't do it in a jerkin or any other method as well. So
I actually think it depends on the team. Whatever you guys agree with, whatever works for the QAs, whatever you agree with, just use it. As long as you're communicating, that's the most important thing.
Yeah. My question to you, Nnenna, regarding that topic about knowing APIs and having a knowledge as a BA, what's your view on from recruitment point of view? As you will notice, there'll be many projects in the future related to API. Recruiters don't know the BA need to have that skill or not. Do you think it's a good idea to have API skills, even up to basic level building APIs?
Of course, which is why I did this workshop and I wrote these materials for you guys to read to allow you to get a sense of what an API is. So just for you to have a good argument or just have a conversation with the recruiter, because you correctly pointed that out. Some recruiters don't know it's not meant to be the thing. So you'll be able to talk comfortably just from reading that. I've got loads of people that send me messages telling me, like, thanking me for the information on my blog, just because they were then able to have good conversations based on that. So the whole point of putting that there is for you to read, digest it, and then speak confidently. But it really isn't something you interfere with. I would prefer you trust, because you're meant to work in collaboration with other people as a BA, not be the one doing everything. Do you get? So I want you, which is why I don't agree with BAs being very technical, because I feel like at the end of the day, you would now stop being a BA and actually being an SA. I don't see the reason why you should do that. So as the customers, the reason you're there is for the customers to be able to speak to you easily. If you start being very technical, how do you then do that? Because you wouldn't know when you start talking technically to your customers. So I don't really subscribe to that. Or the basic knowledge, that's what this is for, and the blog links are for.
And also, when you're going through recruitment process, remember there is a Nnenna who has a API knowledge, and she put on the CV. She knows how to build APIs, and there is another person, Zafar. He says nothing about it. Who's gonna get the job? Nnenna is gonna get the job.
So you and your recruiter stuff, up to you. But a BA should not build an API. Honestly, shouldn't, because you're not a BA anymore. There are companies obviously that look for someone that has all of those skills. Yeah, they might look for someone that's so technical they can even save the world while writing user stories, and also maybe breastfeed a child or something at the same time.
Then they better look for a system analyst, not a business analyst.
If you want to fill that role, because I would say if I see something, a job that's got maybe project management, product management, maybe delivery management included, I'll just be like, I'm not doing that with you guys, because I'm not going to be everything. I need to be something.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take 2 more questions from Avalon and Terry.
Yes, please, because I need to run.
Avalon, please go ahead with your.
Okay, sorry I joined late, but I'd have a lot of questions, but let me just ask my questions pertaining to the last part. So please, what would you suggest to be a best practice in terms of what kind of response to give to a user from the API point to the front end? So would you think error messages like response messages should be returned by the backend, the API, or the error codes should detect what kind of messages to show to the user from the front end perspective? Like, let's say an example, if delete from API's point, delete is no content 204.
Yeah.
Should we return a response to the user, or the front end should know that, okay, 204 means no content? I should tell the user that, okay, whatever action you've taken is successful, or you would expect the backend to give you the response to show.
Okay,
thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So I already got what your question was. Who remembers? Oh no, do you guys know that when if you don't have internet connection on your phone and you want to use Google, you play that game? Do you know what triggers that game? Is the HTTP code that gets returned. So the HTTP code knows is probably 404 or 401, or whichever one that determines into like your side not having internet connection. That's what triggers the game. You
want me to help you now with that?
Yeah, so I'll say that's 1. 2, the response that comes back, which is why I said when you're determining the trigger of the response, you can have a new stakeholders. So if like there was building a chatbot API, we needed to know what was going to get returned to the consumer. It mustn't even always be to the consumer, but wanted to know what would get returned. I pulled people in and asked them, what would you like returned? They told me, and that was what the response was. You can determine it on your own if you're the type of data works in your own, but just always carry people. Also, we have a content designer. If you have a content designer, it's your job to determine what comes back or what stays on an interface and everything. What stays in between is between you and the technical team to determine that. So I'm just going to stop here and let Richie continue. I'm actually just leave you guys Richie. I need to
just very quick. An end user should never see any response, HTTP response code on the front end. It should never happen.
Some people see though. The 404, if you go into like some blogs and stuff, you see 404 written there.
I understand. I understand that, yeah, but I'm saying from a quality side, that should not happen. What it should do, because we have back-end developers and front-end, back-end should be able to give those on the endpoint to say it's 404, it's 409, it's a complete and that. But the front-end developer, when he's making that call, should be able to put like a model to say, okay, if it returns 409, look at the message I'll put there. So you don't have to, the end user shouldn't be able to see that.
Up to the company you're designing again.
Okay, so you think the content designer should actually tell us what the front end should display, or you think the back end should take the content from the content designers to put in the back end for the message to come? Like, that's what I want to get.
So anything that's got to do with the interface is the content designer's job. Whatever returns to the interface.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Your job,
Okay.
if there's no content designer, you determine now your stakeholders. What stays at the back end is for your technical unit, technical team.
Exactly.
Terry, you've got your hands up.
Yeah, let's take Terry. The last one from Terry. Our time. Hello, Terry.
Yeah, hello. I was just going to say thank you, Nnenna. This is an absolutely brilliant session. This APIs and BAs and devs, it's one of the things that it helps a lot of people who are getting into this industry. Whether you're a business analyst or a developer, but it's good for this session. Unfortunately, I couldn't actually attend every aspect of it. Is it okay, or can we have access to the video to learn more about it?
Yeah, the videos will be made available. We are recording, so the video will be made available.
Thank you.
Right, so I really enjoyed this. I had people testing my knowledge again on APIs and stuff, because again, it's been a long time since I worked on that or touched it. So I'm really grateful, guys. Always very happy to talk about stuff. Please relax when it comes to APIs. Again, it's just form a good relationship with your tech team. There was someone I told this to recently. If you need to get something done, find out who's going to do it, or who can do it, or who should do it, and build a relationship with them. They'll do it for you. That's how to do it. That's how to work. That's how to be a BA. You should learn to delegate. So yeah, I really appreciate everyone. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Carlos, Nnenna, thank you so much for putting this.
I me and Richie need to fight after this call.
It can't go now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nnenna. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you. Bye.